Good morning, everybody. So, no doubt if you have a television set, you've seen what has been going on in the United States, across the country. It's a little early this morning. I'm not usually out and about. My camera doing the foggy thing again today? I think it was right next to some water. A little bit better. So I turned on the TV set last night at 6 to watch the local news and to see somewhat what was going on. I'm looking across the street and this is the Sarasota Police Department, and it looks like the whole front is taped off right now. And there's a woman standing there. I was hoping to get to this police department thing in a few minutes, but I wonder if they've basically just vacated the whole bottom floor just in case there was any, violent burning or anything. Interesting. That's usually where you go to pick up paperwork or report a crime or, talk to somebody, and the police department is the first floor right there. But it looks like it's all blocked off. Anyway, let's get to that in a second. So, TV coverage. So last night, right here, there was a peaceful protest in Sarasota. It looks like there was hundreds of people. Not only black people, but every other color looked like too, which I thought was a positive thing. That the community as a whole is supporting this injustice with people being killed by cops, especially the guy that's on TV every day, George. Yeah, so I thought it was interesting. It looks like they had it barricaded off for the most part. Anyway, then I watched the national news. So this is the first time in weeks that I've watched any national news. Sometimes I'll flip it on for a minute to kind of see what's going on with COVID and and when I find out it's all just crap and sad news and negativity, I flip it off usually. I listen to the radio instead. Or I listen to a podcast. So, there's another guy walking up to the police department right there. Wonder if people are coming in to, do normal things at the police department. He's just looking. There's another lady walking by. But I'm sure it says caution tape over there. All right, so let's get to a few things before. Anyway, the news just made me sad. All these protests in LA and Minneapolis and New York, and the peaceful protests seem like a nice thing, and that is a positive, but the looting that's still going on. So anyway, I want you to draw my attention to my hat I just picked up a couple days ago. I got this on purpose. I found this at a auto parts place, and I thought that's the perfect hat for me to get right now, is a USA. And if you'll notice, it says, well, it's backwards, I'm sorry about that, established 1776. So that's roughly in the 250 year range. 250 years ago, we didn't like what was going on in England and other countries and decided to make a new country. Not to wax too deeply. And had hoped to not repeat the same mistakes that had happened in other countries, such as overtaxation and this whole caste system and all this kind of crazy stuff that was going on in England that we didn't like. And it's not exactly, right now it's not exactly what we originally decided to lay out in paper, a united states. And what that would mean to me would be we're all united in thought, and the states are united in one peaceful community of freedom. So let's look at what's going on here. They decided to put these giant barricades out in front of the police department. It almost looks like there's poop on top, but they're actually pieces of chain, big pieces of chain out here. Because they're sure they had to get a big crane out here. This hadn't been out here previously. So I guess they're taking precautions to minimize the amount of traffic and cars that could possibly harm people by driving in here. You see that this is partially blocked off right there. Part of the road's open, and this is right where I saw the protesting on TV last night. And I think I'm going to go to my Facebook page, John Swift Live, and put that up. If you want to go to my Facebook page, I'll look up those stories and put them on my news feed or whatever, if you want to see what that looked like. But there could have been 1,000 people. I'm not sure. There could have been 500 people, but they were all right here last night. I'd say around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. They marched from Bayfront all the way down, and I kind of wish that had happened. But I had gotten off work, and I was kind of tired. I was just beat because I had been working out some outside, and it's hot and all that stuff. So you can see the caution tape that's being put up, and it looks like they're restricting people. Good morning. Good morning. They're restricting people from coming into the that's the police chief, by the way. People from coming into the front doors, apparently. Yeah, that's the actual police chief of the police department. She waved and said hello. So you've got crime scene, do not cross here, and right out in front. Funny that the police chief came out. And you've got, this is like the only avenue. Actually, it's blocked off down here too. So you could see that there is a lot of concern about what's going on. And probably fear too, what could possibly happen, because of what happened in Minneapolis. Are they going to come here and burn this down? So let's move on to a different subject, which is when I went to work last night, I had heard that Monday night, was today Wednesday? Yeah, today's Wednesday. I heard that Monday night at 11 p.m. that people had pulled up in the parking lot and tried to loot a jewelry store right next to near where I work. Funny that the police chief would walk out at the exact moment that I was out here. I think it's about like 9:30ish, 10 o'clock. So that hit home. That was kind of scary. It wasn't a protest. See, we're having this separation between protest and I'm watching the chief of police stand out in front of the police department. It's kind of interesting. There is a difference between the looting and the protesters. The protesters are protesting, the looters are looting, and at different times. It's not like a protest that went crazy, and we're finding that there's a difference between the two. I think somebody finally arrived to pick up the police chief. There they are. Their ride has arrived. Her ride has arrived. Getting picked up from the police department. That's funny. Very interesting timing there, huh? You don't see the police chief walking around. Even though the police chief is a very community-oriented person, I mean, you don't usually walk in the streets. So, there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack if you've watched the national news. Like I watched ABC News Tonight or whatever it was. It's like I just lost my train of thought. It's like you're seeing looting and then you're seeing peaceful protesting. And there was some key moments that they isolated where a woman came up and gave it looks like it was a police officer a hug, or the police officer gave the woman a hug. And it may have been a National Guardsman. it's possible. I'm sure that if you go to Google and you type in woman hugs National Guardsman and asked her to join the protest. I see people pulling up in front of the police station and realizing it's closed off, and then like they're backing up because you can't actually drive around the police station now, apparently. There goes the police chief and probably another cop car. I think it's blocked off from both avenues coming through. I guess you could come down here and park, but you can't you can't drive through, if that makes any sense. There's no through driving, which is interesting. All right, so let's get to the points I wanted to get to. So there is some attempts at calming the peace, trying to come to an amicable solution, and really nothing's going to change until the local governments, like the city council, the county commission, the state representatives, and the people who make these laws and enforce these laws, or allow the police officer to enforce laws, are going to change on paper. That's going to happen, and hopefully these protests will facilitate that. That's what I think we're hoping. It's kind of dark out today. Look at the sky. The sky's kind of just cloudy. I think we're having some tropical storms in the Gulf where I live. It's affecting the weather, which it's actually kind of cool this morning. I still can't get over the police chief walking out of the police department there. Uncanny timing, folks. I think my camera is not on wide angle mode now, because it doesn't seem all does it? I don't know. Maybe I'm too tired. So we're walking past a little playground in the park. The park's right across the street from the police station. So yeah, there was a lot of heartache being shown on television, and there was a lot of, what would you say, sharing of emotion on both sides, on the police department and the National Guard, and the people are realizing that all this violence and hate is not where we need to be heading as far as human beings. We need to try to understand and work together. Once again, united. The U is for united. All of trying to work together to fix these problems. And if you're 30 or over, you can probably remember this has been going on, this police brutality type of thing. And it's not just African Americans that are being that police brutalize, okay? It's any race are being treated badly. But it's especially explosive when there is a video of an African American man being choked out by stepping on his neck, okay? That really sparks a big explosion. Now, I just want to pose this question, and I'm not gonna give an answer, and I'm not gonna take a side. If it was anybody other than a man of color, would this be going on right now? That's just a rhetorical question for everybody to answer for themselves. I'm not pointing the finger, and I'm trying to be as unobjectively. Do you think if it was somebody other than an African American, would this be going on right now? And it's a really hard question to answer, and I'm not in the position to answer that. Everybody has their own opinion, and no opinions are wrong. So I want to tell a little bit of a story. What are we doing? 15 minutes? I could hopefully wrap this up in 15 minutes. So what I did last night was somebody showed me a video of the store that was near where I work the people rushing toward it, and then you can hear the window break at a jewelry store where it was. I'll see if I can put all this stuff, if I can make a mental list of stuff to put on YouTube so you can watch it for yourself. I can't really edit right now, so instead of putting it in this video, I'll just put it on my Facebook page, and you can go to John Swift Live on Facebook. Hopefully you can find it. It's got the picture of a guy running with a blue background on there. And I'll try to remember to put the link in the bottom. And so anyway, the local news had some of that video. And so the guy who actually, I saw somebody show it to me first on Facebook, and then I went home, and then when it was on the news, it said the person's name who took the video, and put it, because they always credit the person, like if it's on Facebook, they'll credit them if it's like, John Jones. So I went to their Facebook page and I saw the video, and then I was looking around their Facebook page because it's not private. What else was on there? And what I saw, I'm trying to describe, is some texts that were screenshotted and put on there, where they're having a private conversation about somebody saying something about the guy who shot the video. And then somebody saying something like, I know who you are, and now I'm calling the cop. I'm going to tell the police who you are, and you're going to get your ass busted. And the person is using some cuss words and saying, they can't do shit to me, I was just there. Notice my hat has this like little part of the flag here too. Kind of a cool hat. I'm really excited to wear this, and hopefully I'll be wearing this all the time. Just as a reminder of what the country was founded for, is freedom of speech, freedom to express yourself, freedom of religion. And there's a lot of places in the world that they just don't have this, and that's why we have protests, because we have freedoms to voice opinions. I think that it's a good thing to amend change. And like I said, I feel that the police are doing what they're trained to do. Generally speaking, there's the bad police that are doing what they're not trained to do, and harming and killing people, and what do they call it? Police brutality, or assaulting people. And if you don't change those police policies, that will keep happening. So way back in the day, there was a chokehold that they would do with a baton to subdue criminals, and they had to change that. And they've since stopped using the chokehold because people were dying. And that's exactly what needs to happen now, is they need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what they're doing wrong and get rid of all the bad cops and try to start over and hopefully heal what's going on right now. It's not going to be overnight, and there's going to be more incidents of people getting killed by cops. I can almost 100% guarantee that. And so back to I went to the guy's Facebook page, and he seemed like how can I say this without sounding racist? He seemed like a thug type person. That's as well as I could. There's white thugs, and there's Latino thugs, and there's black thugs, and there's all kinds of thugs. There's even probably Chinese and Japanese thugs. So it's not a black thug thing, but this guy seemed like he was possibly in the drug culture. And I looked up one of his friends out of curiosity. See, you notice I'm not mentioning anybody's names because I'm not singling anybody out. Is this guy has pictures of himself just holding 20s and 50s as a moment of being proud, I guess you could say, or showing off, or whatever you want to call it. Like, I would liken it to when your friends go to the beach and their families together and they take a picture of themselves that we're having a great time. You always want to put your best moments on there. And this is what this culture of this guy's into is money, and it obviously it boils down to, by what the conversations and the comments were, is that it's like from drugs. The guy's literally talking about selling drugs and how much, I haven't got this amount of drugs, so buy this amount of drugs. It's like he's talking about like tens and fives. So I'm assuming that's, I'm not in the drug culture, but I'm assuming that it's like a bag, a $10 bag and a $5 bag. So the guy's actually that dumb that he talks about selling drugs on Facebook. And like I said, their point of I don't know, showing off is that they have $500 cash in 20s, and they're fanning it out like a card trick. You know how people fan cards? They're fanning out the bills. And I'm sure if you don't look, it would be pretty easy to find, is like, look up, Google, I don't know, African American man fanning out 20s. And there's actually a picture of the guy holding a baby, a newborn baby, with a headband on, with like a roll, I don't know, it's not a roll, it's a pack of 20s or 100s hanging from, it's like, I don't even know how to react to that. A pack of money hanging from the headband, like there's the headband, and there's money, and he's holding a baby like this, holding a newborn. What is that? What image are you projecting? So that brings me to the second part of this video's point, is when all this civil strife and racism, accused racism, and bad police officers and people being killed by the police dies down, how are we how are the people that run these organizations, that organize these protests, how are they helping the youth to get away from this bad drug culture, which is, you either quit high school and start dealing drugs and earning money, and then eventually you get caught and go to jail and or prison, and or you graduate high school and then you don't go to, you don't get a regular job, you just start dealing drugs, and then you sit on Facebook and you're fanning out 20s and 100s on Facebook. What are those groups doing to change the youth? And I'm not just pointing at blacks, I'm just talking about all youth that are involved in the drug culture, and that's where their aspiration, their young aspirations coming out of high school age, seems like there's a disconnect there. That's where they want to be, is just earning money and flashing money, and maybe showing a new car they just bought with the thousands of dollars that they just earned from selling drugs. There seems to be an issue there, and I want to know. Wow, I just dropped the phone. I want to know what those organizations who are organizing all these protests and speaking out about this are doing about their youth to bring up well-rounded young people, so that the next generation isn't doing this same thing where they're low income, dealing drugs, going to jail, having babies, going to jail, not being around to support the mother of the child, and or doing drugs, or all both. There's a problem there. There's a problem with that section of youth. And I don't buy that shit where it's, well, they grew up poor and they didn't have the same opportunities that you did to go to college. That's bullshit. Because there's plenty of opportunities. I'm not talking about full ride scholarships. I'm saying there are schools that will give you financial aid for free to pay. That's how I went to school. I had financial aid, I got a grant, and I went to school for free. Not because of an academic grant or something that I applied for that way that somebody gave me. The state gave me the money to go to school for free, and I got a degree. and I used it to get into television. So that's really, I wanted to really just not delve into the racist thing today, because I think it's well beyond that. I wanted to delve in the other outlying problems that cause these things. And so let's go back to, I can't remember the guy's name, the guy that was killed by the police officer. I don't believe that he was into drugs, and I don't believe that he was into the drug culture and the thug mentality. I believe that, well, this may sound dumb. The news says that he was a security guard and he had a wife and a kid, and that they paint him as a average citizen. So I don't think he was killed because he was involved in drugs. From what I read, that he was passing off a fake $10 bill. It's circumstantial. Maybe somebody gave it to him and he just went to go pay with it, didn't know it was fake. I'm not gonna pretend that I make a judgment on that. I wasn't there. I haven't read the police report. But I want to sort of expand the whole horizon of the thought process, as well as it's a white cop that killed a black guy. That's the problem with America. It's a white cop that the media is pushing that, and they always push that. Because when is the last time a Middle Eastern person was abused by the cops and it was on the news? Look it up. I can't remember one time that a Middle Eastern person, because I don't think America is really high on the Middle Eastern population as far as backing that. When's the last time that a Hispanic American was arrested by the cops and it blew up like this? When was the last time? And I'm not even going to go to the white. I'm just saying any other race but black. When was the last time that a human being was assaulted and injured or killed by the police department, and it was this much of a explosion of anger and protest and burning and looting and violence? I think that's a big question that we all need to explore and wonder what's wrong with this picture. Don't just look at these little isolated things that the news is feeding you. Let's try to look at the bigger picture. And that's all I can really think of to say today, guys. I'm a little emotionally disturbed by what's going on, yeah. No, I wouldn't say a little, I would say a lot emotionally disturbed by it. So I pose these questions for you to find these answers for yourself. Everything's on the internet, practically. Police reports, news clippings, videos. You can almost find out almost anything that you want on the internet if you spend the time to look. So just a little perspective and a little out of the box thinking. As always, I hope you guys are doing as well as possible. And I'm not here to hate on anybody. I'm here to think of solutions and, really just put my 2 cents in. And hopefully you'll seek the truth on your own. Remember, united.